So, good evening to everyone. And thank you very much for all the kind things you've said. Barbara Cartwright, who is the Secretary General of the Progressive Liberal Party, told me that the phone goes off early in the morning with this ping, the same thing you were talking about. And Patrick says to her, as she leans over to see what is Fred saying, he says to her, "It's not the Bible, you know."
Political Bible.
So what I remember as I've aged is Albert Miller was a very good friend of mine, mentor, supporter. And I remember going to see him when he made the decision that he was going to retire, because he'd been running his own businesses. And he said to me, you know, I never had a problem with my energy level until I reached the age of 85. And then he said, for some reason, when I turned 85, my energy level just dropped precipitously. And he said, that was the signal to me that it was time to hand off my business to my son. So he called Russell, who's now running Atlantis, and asked him to come home and start managing their business. There's a man named Mohammed Mahathir, or Mahathir Mohammed, who was cumulatively Prime Minister of Malaysia for about 20 years. The last stint of which he was called back at the age of 93 to lead the campaign of the opposition forces in Malaysia, and became Prime Minister at the age of 93 and served for about 4 years before he retired and handed off to his successor. The other example is St. Lucia's Prime Minister, John Compton, who was called back at the age of 83 to take the opposition forces back into government. Sadly, he passed away during office, but Mohammed is still alive. He's now 99 years of age. So I was telling one of the ladies in Fox Hill who's planning on taking early retirement. She's now 55, and I think national insurance allows you to, at least women are allowed to take early retirement at 55.
Really?
And I said to her, are you sure you want to do this? Because chances are you could live another 40 years. And that means if you retire at 55, you've got to be sure you can take care of yourself until you reach 95. Mm-hmm. And retirement income is fixed. So what you could have bought 5 years ago for $2,000, can't cut it now. You just have to go into the supermarket and see what the costs are. So I always felt that as long as you can keep going, you should keep going.
Yep, I agree.
With due respect to the fact that a system needs to be refreshed by young people, and that you always have to find a way to get younger people into the system. The Chinese system is the best thing I've seen in this regard. When you go to China, when you look at who runs things on the surface, it's all young people everywhere. But when you go behind the curtain, there's someone 60 or 70 behind the curtain,
Yep.
sort of directing traffic. But they always make sure that young people are running the system. So I believe in that. And I also believe in low barriers to entry. One of the reasons a political party can be successful is by having low barriers to entry. You don't have to be anybody's family. You don't have to belong to no special church, no special institution. But you come to join the PLP, you need $5 for joining and $5 for the first month's dues. And you're a member. And you don't even have to be, I don't think you even have to be a citizen of the Bahamas. You just join. And that's a low barrier to entry. And that has caused the organization to be able to grow and expand and have new blood. because it can very easily become incestuous if it just is one set of families that are running things all the time, and particularly in a small country. The other thing I wanted to say, with real respect to everybody who's here tonight, is an understanding very early in my political career, and certainly since becoming a minister of the government, is the symbiotic relationship between business and government. I was telling Mr. Pantry here that one of the things that surprised me, particularly when I served as Minister for Immigration, is the extent to which the government actually drives business in this country, that it is the largest investor in everything. And when a government makes a decision to cut back on spending, the economy contracts. And I learned from my travel in the Middle East that an economy should never contract, that the economy should always be expanding. And this fascination that people have with balancing budgets and deficits and all the rest of that, I'm not for that. My view is a developing country needs to spend. Your grandchildren will pay for it later because it's going to benefit them in any event. And you could say, let's wait 10 years down the road. 10 years down the road, it's going to be 20 times more expensive. So you may as well make the investment now.
Absolutely.
And keep growing, keep growing, keep growing. Because there are a lot of mouths to feed, and there's a lot of work to do. And so what I appreciated, and I'm happy you reminded me of these stories, is what I was trying to do at all times is I want to find a mechanism that whenever a business comes to a minister of the government and says, can you help me with this? I want to be able to say yes, and I want you to get it as soon as possible, because that's the only way this economy is going to continue to grow and expand. And we are very fortunate because we're next to the largest market in the world. They have the greatest spending power in the world. And we are right next to them. And it's easy for us to enter their country and to leave their country. And the people have a natural relationship with us, and we need to use that to our benefit. Again, I was telling one of my colleagues earlier tonight that what strikes me when I go to the United States is how much money is actually in that country. That China, being the second largest economy in the world, is 40% less than the US economy. 40% less. So they're 60% of the US economy. That tells you how huge the United States is and what a powerhouse it is. And so we have to leverage the relationships, US, China, Middle East. Those are the relationships that we're trying to leverage for the benefit of the people who live here. And people are, in some senses, xenophobic and frightened of immigration. But I was just giving a list of people who are the sons and daughters of immigrants. 50% of Pinley's cabinet, one of the parents of those cabinet ministers came from the Southern Caribbean. Cecil Wallace Whitfield's wife was from England. Cyril Stevenson's wife from England. Arthur Hanna's wife from England. And all of them were immigrants to this country and brought the strengths of immigration to the country. And we talk about our friends and brothers from the Turks and Caicos Islands. There was no distinction between us until independence took place. So there's that. So tonight, in addition to thanking all of you for all of the very kind things that you've said, and you know, Lyndon Johnson said when he was speaking to the Canadian Parliament, my father would have thanked you, my mother would have believed you. But I'm grateful for those comments and for that support. And I want to commit myself to whatever years are left to contribute to passing the baton, to making sure that that baton is a signal to inculcate a set of values, which I describe as liberal democratic values. Tolerance for people as they are, not as you want them to be. You go into someone's house, and I don't ask whether you're PLP or F&M or whether you're Anglican or Baptist. It's what can I do to help?
Yeah.
And most people respond to that, and that should be what should be the axiom of our political lives.
Yeah.
And JoBeth, as a senator and as a minister, has been an example of that, of the next generation of PLP leaders who, when the party morphs and develops going forward into the years, long after people in my age group have gone off the scene, will be responsible for making sure that those values are set in cement. Because those are important values for a country that can remain at peace with all of its neighbors. So thank you very kindly for this tonight. Sharon, it's a special set of words from you. And you know the extent of the special relationship. And I appreciate all that you said. We had a wonderful party for her in London. When was that? That was this year or that was last year?
Yeah, that was in June.
That was in June, yeah, it was great. And yeah, she and all the sisters were there. So I think I've exhausted all the things I need to say, not what I want to say. But I'll leave you with this. Politics, I think you've heard me say this before, is the only thing that I've ever wanted to do. There's nothing else.
Yep.
And I was 10 years old when Jack Kennedy, the President of the United States, got assassinated in Dallas. And I remember the day like yesterday because my neighbor, there was no fence between us, and my neighbor, who I used to talk politics with as a child, sent a message that I must come because there was a problem. We ran through the backyard and we sat there and listened to the radio that he had died. And of course, the year before, he was in the Bahamas for 7 days, would you believe it, at Life at Key on an official visit to meet the Prime Minister of Great Britain here with the Prime Minister of Canada, Diefenbaker and Macmillan. And but before that, in 1960, he said in his inaugural address, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country."
Yep.
And that second admonition is something that I've never forgotten. And every day I ask myself, what can I do to make things better for the people who live here, for family, friends, and the citizens of the Bahamas? And all of you are a part of that that's made this country a success. And I'm sure going forward that the country is going to continue to be successful as a result of the input of all of you who are here tonight and the goodwill you've expressed. So may God bless you and God bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Thank you.
Cheers.